Welcome to my channel, Hotspot with Loveth, the ultimate spot for all things entertainment, ranging from celebrity gists, reviews, interesting stories, and African folktales. Subscribe now. The smell of sizzling garlic and the sound of chopping vegetables fill the bustling kitchen of the popular show Gourmet Gladiators. Rachel Adams, a renowned chef known for her innovative take on classic cuisine, was in her element. Her focus was unwavering as she prepared her signature dish, a deconstructed beef Wellington. Across the kitchen, James Walker, a brash and talented chef, famous for his daring fusion dishes, was hard at work on his creation, a spicy tuna tartare with avocado mousse and wasabi foam. Rachel glanced over at him, her eyes narrowing. James was her biggest rival on the show, and their rivalry was the stuff of legends. James looked up and caught Rachel's gaze. He smirked, knowing how much his presence irritated her. "Ready to lose again, Rachel?" he taunted. Rachel rolled her eyes. "In your dreams, Walker. We all know who the real chef here is." The competition was fierce, and the tension between Rachel and James was palpable. They were the top contendants on Gourmet Gladiators, and each week their rivalry grew more intense. But what neither of them realized was that beneath the animosity, a different kind of tension was building. The latest challenge was announced: create a dish using the mystery ingredient, which turned out to be black truffles. Rachel's mind raced with possibilities, and she quickly got to work on a black truffle risotto with seared scallops. James, on the other hand, decided to make a truffle-infused sushi roll with a miso glaze. As they worked, Rachel couldn't help but notice how effortlessly James moved around the kitchen. Despite her irritation, she had to admit he was talented. James, for his part, found himself sneaking glances at Rachel. There was something about her determination and precision that he admired, even if he would never admit it out loud. The clock ticked down, and both chefs plated their dishes with seconds to spare. The judges tasted each creation, their faces revealing nothing. After what felt like an eternity, they announced the winner, James Walker. Rachel's heart sank, but she managed to keep a composed expression. As James celebrated his victory, he couldn't resist another dig. "Better luck next time, Adams." Rachel forced a smile. "Enjoy it while it lasts, Walker." Later that evening, after the cameras had stopped rolling, Rachel decided to unwind at a nearby bar. She found a quiet corner and ordered a glass of wine, trying to shake off the disappointment of losing. Just as she was starting to relax, James walked in. He spotted Rachel and, much to her dismay, made his way over to her table. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, already pulling out a chair. "Do I have a choice?" Rachel muttered. James laughed. "Come on, Rachel, it's just a drink. We don't have to be enemies all the time." Rachel sighed, realizing he wasn't going to leave. "Fine, but no gloating." James held up his hands in mock surrender. "I promise." They sat in awkward silence for a few moments, sipping their drinks. Finally, James broke the ice. "You know, your risotto was really good today. The scallops were cooked perfectly." Rachel raised an eyebrow, surprised by the compliment. "Thanks. Your sushi was impressive too. The truffle infusion was a nice touch." James smiled, and for the first time, Rachel saw a different side of him. They started talking about their culinary journeys, their inspirations, and the challenges they'd faced. The more they talked, the more they realized things they had in common. The initial animosity began to melt away, replaced by a growing respect and a surprising connection. As the weeks went by, Rachel and James found themselves drawn to each other more and more. Their rivalry remained fierce in the kitchen, but outside of it, a tentative friendship began to form. They started meeting up after filming, exchanging cooking tips, and even working on recipes together. One evening, after a particularly grueling challenge, they decided to blow off some steam by cooking a meal together. They chose a small cozy kitchen in the studio that wasn't being used. As they worked side by side, their banter flowed easily, and the attraction between them became undeniable. Rachel was chopping vegetables when she felt James' gaze on her. She looked up, their eyes locking. The air seemed to thicken with tension, but this time, it was different. It was charged with something electric, something they could no longer ignore. James stepped closer, his voice low. Rachel, I know we started off on the wrong foot, but I can't stop thinking about you. I've tried, but it's impossible. Rachel's heart raced. She had felt the same way, but had been too afraid to admit it. James, Before she could finish, James closed the distance between them and kissed her. It was a kiss filled with all the passion and frustration that had been building between them. Rachel responded, her hands tangling in his hair as she pulled him closer. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathless. James rested his forehead against hers. I don't want to be your enemy anymore, Rachel. I want to be more. Rachel smiled, her eyes shining with emotion. I want that too, James. Their newfound relationship brought a new dynamic to the show. While there were still fierce competitors in the kitchen, their connection outside of it grew stronger. They supported and challenged each other, pushing themselves to be better chefs and better people. One of the final challenges of Gourmet Gladiators was a team challenge, and to everyone's surprise, Rachel and James were paired together. They had to create a 5-course meal that showcased their individual styles while working seamlessly as a team. The kitchen was a whirlwind of activity as they collaborated. Their movements synchronized like a well-choreographed dance. They communicated effortlessly, their ideas flowing together to create a menu that was both innovative and delicious. As they platted the final dish, James looked at Rachel and smiled. We'll make a pretty good team, don't we? Rachel grinned. The best. The judges were blown away by their meal, praising their creativity and execution. When it came time to announce the winners, Rachel and James stood side by side, their hands clasped together. The host's voice rang out, and the winners of this season of Gourmet Gladiators are Rachel Adams and James Walker. They hugged each other tightly, the thrill of victory amplified by the joy of sharing it with someone they loved. After the show ended, Rachel and James decided to open a restaurant together, combining their culinary talents to create something truly special. They named it Rivalry, a nod to their past but also a testament to how far they had come. The restaurant was an instant success, with people coming from all over to experience the unique fusion of Rachel and James' cooking styles. They worked side by side every day, their love for each other reflected in every dish they created. One evening, after the restaurant had closed and they were cleaning up, James took Rachel's hand and led her to the middle of the dining room. He looked into her eyes, his expression serious. Rachel, these past few months have been the best of my life. I love you more than words can say. Will you marry me? Tears filled Rachel's eyes as she nodded. Yes, James, I love you too. They kissed, sealing their promise to each other. From rivals to lovers, they had found a love that was as fiery and passionate as their cooking, and they knew that together they could conquer anything.